Hello, this is MyJoe 2001. Today we're going to be working on another dragon from the Raspberry series. So first we're going to go ahead and we're going to make it where the lines are a layer of their own. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and go to Select, and we're going to go ahead and select all, or you can hit Control A, and then go ahead and hit Edit, and then we're going to go ahead and hit Copy, or you can hit Control C. And once that's done, we have copied the actual layer that we're on. Then we're going to go ahead and go to Select and Save Selection, and just go ahead and name it Alpha 1. This is going to be saving to a channel, and that's how we go and make it where only the black lines are visible. Go ahead and go to the Channels tab and see the new alpha layer here. Now you can go ahead and hit just Control V as in Victor, or you can go to Edit and hit Paste. And that's our new channel right there. And what we're going to go ahead and do now is go ahead and select and load selection and invert. This makes it so only the black lines are selected, and go to layers, and you're going to make a new layer, and then we're going to go ahead and paint in those layers so that they're going to be viewable once we're done. So go ahead and just paint. You don't ever want to pick your paintbrush up while you're doing this, otherwise it's going to darken different. So just always do one go through. And that's all we need for this. I always go and like to name my layers. This is just so I can keep track of stuff. Let's delete this background layer. We don't need it anymore, and I find it kind of tedious to use it. And then here we're just going to go ahead and paint in just my generic background layer until we decide on what colors we actually want to be using for this. And just go ahead and rename that. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and we're just going to select the area that is specific to this part of the painting, and that's for the Dragon Bee. So just go ahead and use your magic wand, draw around this, and we're just going to go ahead and we can hit Edit and Copy, or Control C, and then hit Control V, or Edit and Paste. And then we're going to go ahead and hide the lines from that other layer, because now we just need to go and have the lines for this one specific dragon. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit Edit and Free Transform, or Control T. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to hold down Shift while you grab a corner and pull it. The reason why you're doing this is if you just go and grab a different area than a corner and hold down Shift, it'll squish weird. So you don't want to do that at all. So now we're going to go ahead and let's just start working from here. Just double checking real quick, see what my size is. You always want to have about 300 DPI whenever you're doing a painting. And we're going to go ahead and start creating our first group. And this is just going to be called Dragon. Usually if I'm going to be doing paintings with different objects that are going to start getting intricate, I go and I name them the separate things like dragon and glass or smoothie, and that's just so that I can keep track of it when I have 500 layers or whatnot. At this point, we're just going to go ahead and start painting in our base layers for the dragon. Depending on how intricate I'm going to be doing my painting, I'll start it out in black and white, and that's just because my values, meaning white to black, it's easier for me to go and see what a value is or what the shading should look like in a black and white painting versus color. Because you'll notice with color, it'll look like it's really dark, but actually it's the same darkness as another color that looks lighter. And I can go into color theory if somebody actually cares about knowing on that. But for now, I'm doing it black and white just so that we can keep track of what everything looks like. Now, what you're seeing right now, and the reason why this painting is looking like I'm going slower than I will in some of my previous paintings, and also in about the next minute, you'll start to see the painting speed up. I'm actually painting at the exact same speed. All that happened is my video recording, I sped it up really fast. It's actually going 20 times faster than I actually paint at. And that's just because this is about a 5-hour painting. Usually for paintings, and this is what you'll find for most of the ones that are speed paintings on the internet, they actually went and did something that took maybe 5 to 10 hours, but they actually just sped it up super fast. So with this, we're doing the reflections for water. If you understand how shading theory and whatnot works, this is a pretty straightforward process. All we're doing is my light source is from the upper right-hand corner of the actual painting, if you were to look at it. And so you're just going to go and have the way I have it set up. And then the reason why you have the white on the glass on the left-hand side is because there's a reflective light, and that's actually what is making it look lighter on the one side. Now we're just working on the straw. If you notice, I like to recycle, so if I already have something that looks pretty close to what I want my painting to look like, I just go ahead and reuse it. It's faster, and I just have to edit it a little bit. If you notice, I have the white for my highlights, and then I have like that darker gray on the other side, and that's my reflective light. And that's just the way it works, is you're always going to have atmospheric or reflective light. And we're using the smudge brush pretty heavily in this section. It's what I like to use once I go and actually get my layers in. If you notice, I actually have a layer, and a lot of my modifications I'm doing on top of layers. And the reason I do that is so that the shading and everything that I like to begin with, I get to keep, and I can just add things on top without modifying the core layer. Now, this is how I usually go and make ice. Pretty simple and straightforward. I'm actually going to go and paint these a different color later on, but this was just my quick addition to kind of see what it would look like and how I could get my lighting to look correct. Make sure when you're drawing, you're going to want to go and modify. You're going to want to paint under the lines, check to see what it actually looks like. Some of your sketches, if you import them, they're actually going to go and look actually darker. Like the painting underneath will look darker than it really is. So make sure to check, and once you get a ways into the painting, you're not even going to really use the sketch except for as reference for like finer details. Again, all I'm using is a smudge brush. I'm using this for my core underpainting, the dragon layer, and you're not usually going to go and edit it if you're wanting lighter or darker on your painting. Those will be separate layers, and that's just so that if you have an issue, you don't have to delete everything. You can just go and delete one separate layer. That can get a little bit complicated at times, so you might want to avoid doing that until you're more experienced. But for me, speed and efficiency is what I really care about, and so that's how I do these and why I do them the way I do. So for metal, usually you're going to want a darker external, a darker line on the outside, and then on the reflective light side, you're going to go and want just a little bit of shade. And again, I added another layer. I actually have a completely separate group called just face, and that's just so I can keep track of things easier. It really depends on what kind of painting you're doing. Like on some of my monkey paintings, the Space Click monkey paintings, with those ones, I have about 20 separate layers just on the face itself, and that's not including the eyes. The eyes are about another 5 layers on each eye. So there's some artists, they can do some amazing stuff with just one layer. I have done it before in Photoshop using just one layer. But if I'm looking for speed and efficiency, I'm going to be doing layers a lot. Part of that is also if down the road a customer really liked a specific painting, but they need like something new, and they want the same character that I painted for them before, I can go back in here and use the same character over again, and I only have to make some minor modifications to go and get the painting to look right. This one, since I'm not really planning on having this be available to do any editing for any customer, it isn't as separate as some of my other pieces, like the painting I did for Dirt Patch Heaven. Each and every single one of her limbs, hat, everything on her is separate, and I did that because with hers, I'm going to end up needing to go and do additional work for her. And so because I kind of had that planned ahead, I don't have to go and rebuild the entire model over again. I just go ahead and do some minor tweaks. Same thing for the puppy that I did for and Puppy Dog Tails. And I'll show you guys, I'm actually going to be doing some of those in a video to go and show kind of my process for re-editing paintings that I've already done, so that they can have additional things for advertising and whatnot. With the berries, I kind of went a little bit overboard with this section. I just happened to really like how easy it was to manipulate them this way. And so I wanted to be able to have the highlights and everything and be able to move them. So that's the reason why they're all separate layers. Once you get to a point where you no longer are going to need all those separate layers, I usually just go and merge them. But and I'll actually do that later on in the painting. But for right now, where I'm not sure if I really like all the light source or whatever, I leave them all as separate layers. One thing to remember, the more layers you have in your painting, the more RAM it's going to take for your computer to run. So meaning it's going to be slower. So some of my paintings are like 2 gigabytes and in size. And so when I save them, or if I go and make a major change to them, like I try to go and move all the layers at once, it acts really, really slow. And that's because I'm taking up so much memory space. So just avoid layers if you can, because they will take up more space. Okay, these are the highlights that I was telling you about, where just it starts to become apparent which direction the light source is coming from on the glass. And the reason, if you noticed, I moved the tail around. The reason why I had it as a separate is because I figured I was going to be moving it around in the end. Usually it's good to go and kind of do the blur lines where it goes and goes off the character, and that's just because it adds more realism. Okay, and Dave Eden's one of my buddies. When I was talking to him, he suggested to go and do kind of like a bronze dragon. So that's actually what we're going to go ahead and change this guy over to shortly, is over to a bronze color. And I'll actually walk you through each section of the process where I'm changing his colors. Again, these are just your highlights. Your backlighting is usually going to be like a cool color, like a blue. And so that's the reason why you're seeing it like this. And if you notice, all I'm doing is going to image, adjustments, hue saturation, and that's where I'm moving my colors around on. Now, the more layers you have, the more you're going to have to do this. Now, there's an option, and if you look down in your bottom right hand corner of your screen where it says FX, if you click on that, you can actually do a color overlay, and that'll change all the colors on everything inside of that group. The issue is I have that raspberry in there, and I have his eyes in there, and I don't want the cover overlay to go and make those guys bronze. So unfortunately, because of that, I have to actually go and modify each one. But you could go and do the FX instead of actually going and changing the color. Usually you do the FX so that you don't go and lose anything. Just doing the wings. Make sure if you're going to be doing a blur, like you're seeing me do now, make sure to lock that grid down. Otherwise, it'll make everything blurry. But if you lock the grid down, it'll only go and do blur within the actual opaque space. And if you notice changing the colors, I actually don't really like these colors, so I'm actually just going to go and repaint them. I just really am not a fan of the way the colors are coming through with that little bit of purple. So I'm just repainting the whole thing. So the way light works in an eye is, imagine it's like a bowl. So if the light is coming from above in the upper right hand corner, the edge of the bowl that's going to have the most light in it is the side that's opposite of where the light is. And that's the reason why eyes look like that. So here, this is just where I'm starting to add in claws. If you see, I recycle my paintings, or recycle parts from paintings. There's no reason to go and repaint an entire section if I already have the pieces and I can make them work. So just changing light sources so that this works better. Now, I'm using the warp tool here. The warp tool is where you go to edit, transform, and warp. It works on a grid system. So I tried that. I didn't like it. So now instead I'm actually going and using the magic wand. And what I do basically is I click on a circle, and it gives me an area that's not editable. And then I select the area that I want to go and follow that shape, and I actually go into it. If people want to see in detail how I do that, I'm happy to show that in a different painting. So now I'm just copying the raspberry, and I'm just reapplying it in different areas. This is just, it's recycling again. There's no reason to go and paint the same thing over and over again if you already have it. So just adding a little bit of green to the raspberry. I want it to look a little bit cooler. And just adding in some blue highlighting. Now, depending on how complex you want a painting to look, I could add in 20 or 30 raspberries. That seems a little overboard to me, and so I'm just keeping it simpler. And then this is the reflection. Reflections are really pretty easy to do. You just go ahead and make sure to take some of the color from your actual reflection, and then just go ahead and make sure that your light sources are mimicking what you're actually seeing. Usually, for more organic stuff, usually the reflection is going to be a little bit lighter, because light folds or wraps around organic objects better than it does around non-organics. So it's going to go and be softer. Just adding a little bit of blur around the raspberry just because I want it to be a little bit more obvious. I'm actually going to go and bump the color up in it too. So this, and you'll find this in pretty common, you'll sometimes do edits just to make things look a little bit better. This is pretty much as close to the wrap up on the painting. We're almost done, just some minor changes, and that's it. That's a Photoshop painting of one of my raspberry dragons. This is MyJoe 2001, and thank you for watching. If you have any comments or thoughts, just go ahead and leave them in here for me, and I'll be happy to reply. If you have any ideas, thank you.